Let's go across to Navneet to start with the large caps and the indices, and flat as flat can be, Navneet.
That's right, Neeraj. A lackluster trading day because we've not seen any sort of major gains. But the good news is there were no major cuts also seen, at least for the benchmark indices. For Nifty, 11,085 is where the closing is coming about. Sensex closing around the mark of 36,160. And the bank Nifty, remember the PSU banking stocks went up, but they don't have major weightage besides State Bank of India and Bank Nifty. So just about a flat closing. But once again, the pressure point was your broader markets. Nifty mid-cap 100 free float index cut of almost 100 points. Small cap index closing with cuts of 80 points, and the BSE mid-cap index have seen cuts of 0.6%. Let's look at the Sensex constituents then. Well, the screen seems to be divided between the green and the red today. State Bank of India, your top gainer with gains of over 3.5%. Adani Port was quite active today. Among your heavyweights, you had counters like TCS, that surged 2.3%. ONGC, I guess this is the third or fourth straight day of gains for ONGC. Heavyweight ITC also surging in trade. Sun Pharma, Yes Bank, Coal India, and your heavyweight HDFC and Infi, HDFC Bank, all of them closed the day in the green. On the losing side, Bharti, Airtel, the top loser, down 7%. Tata Motors was weak in today's session. Tata Steel and ICICI Bank, that's the private banking counter which went up yesterday, saw major cuts in today's session. And not only that, the other heavyweight, I would just like to point out, Reliance Industries, which was surging up till last 2 to 3 sessions, has seen a bit of profit booking today, Neeraj.
Well, thanks a lot for that. By the way, just after we wrap up this piece and before the finance minister starts speaking, we'll get in Somit Sarkar from our research desk to talk about the Interglobe Aviation numbers. Pretty good set of numbers. So we'll have Somit immediately after market closes. But this is what stocks are looking like as we wrap up trade. I've chosen 3 buckets essentially of companies which have either delivered numbers or have been in news. And let's get the first bucket out. There is of course technology. There is the distillery companies, all of which have corrected, and then there is NBFCs, all of which have looked soft. So let's start off with the distillery names. Radico Khaitan, United Spirits, both of these have also pulled down some of the others. So the likes of Som Distilleries and the others, which have no connection really per se in terms of numbers, have all come off in the session today. So a terrible day for consumption, particularly this kind of consumption, which is the alcohol names. Then you move on to NBFCs, which have come out with numbers as well. And there, if you see the kind of moves that have happened, so be it Motilal Oswal, except for IIFL, almost everything else has come off. So Motilal Oswal post numbers correcting. Edelweiss has corrected about 2.5. IIFL has gained. JM Financial is the other one which has come off in the session today. So that bucket of stocks haven't looked the best today. The third is technology, and almost every name. L&T Tech is not essentially a technology company, engineering company, but up 20%. But L&T Infotech, Emphasis, Trigene Technologies, Nuclear Software, this whole clutch of names have done very well. And last but not the least is Interglobe Aviation. As I said, the numbers look pretty solid. The stocks gained post the numbers as well. And we'll give you a bit of synopsis about what the numbers were looking like. 5.5% is no mean feat for Interglobe Aviation.
Right, Neeraj. We've seen a good surge post the numbers for Indigo. But talking about the markets, well, no major gains or losses seen, as we mentioned, for your benchmark indices. But this is the Nifty intraday chart. As you can see, there was a bit of volatility, and you did see Nifty also slipping into the red. But towards the latter end of the day, we did see a positive closing coming about for Nifty. But other than that, I guess the pressure point has been the broader markets. Once again, there was some profit booking which came in at the higher levels for the broader markets, as we highlighted. The mid-cap, small-cap end of the market was down. If you could just pull up the NSE stats, probably that may tell you what the clear picture looked like when it comes to the market breadth in today's session. The advanced decline ratio, which I believe was in favor of the declines towards the end. The NSE stats intraday chart will give you a clear picture. As there you go. We started the day, actually the gap was quite yawning, but it maintained throughout the session, and finally we closed also like that. So just roughly telling you 2:1 in favor of the declines was your NSE stats. The volatility I've been highlighting, it's been a concern. Just to tell you, the India VIX touched the mark which was seen last in December 2016. So we also touched the mark of 18.4, which I want to highlight. But finally, up for the 5th straight day, ending with gains of almost 11%. Let's just quickly pull up the contributors list and tell you which were the stock which capped the moves of Nifty on the downside. Though we did see ICICI Bank contributing the most yesterday, but today it dragged the index lower by 15 points. Heavyweight Reliance too dragged it lower by 15 points. Bharti, Airtel, obviously that's the top loser on Nifty, and as well as Sensex. Tata Motors was also weak in today's session. But what contributed was State Bank of India, HDFC, ITC, TCS, and all four of them are your heavyweights of the index. And finally, I just want to this is obviously the heat map of the Nifty constituents. As you can see, there is still more of green, so no major worry seen there. But State Bank of India, GAIL did pretty well today, and as you can see, stocks like Adani, Port and Tech Mahindra were up and about. Whereas on the losing side, we did see losses. This was the pain pressure point. Bharti, Airtel and Idea, obviously the numbers came about, 5th straight quarter of losses, but both of them tumbled very sharply in today's session. Lastly, I just want to pull up the participation and see what was the turnover just one day before the January series expires today. So this is the total turnover. I think this is the 3rd or the 4th straight day where the cash turnover has been above the mark of 40,000. That's telling you there is cash-based buying happening in the markets, and that has been taking place in the banking and the IT stocks. And NSE F&O turnover, 10 lakh crore is what we usually see in the expiry week. Finally, let's get some closing thoughts going from Siddharth. Siddharth, you had top 2 picks for us, and I think Cochin Shipyard and Tata Elxsi were the ones. Could you take us through the rationale for those picks?
Of course, we like Cochin Shipyard with a target of 695. Looking at the company, it is one of the largest in terms of PSU, in terms of dockyard capacity. Company is leading in the space of shipbuilding and ship repair. In fact, they can be the Asian hub in terms of shipbuilding is concerned. Overall perspective, we can expect a big defense order for the company going forward, as we know that government has a lot of thrust in terms of defense is concerned. So Cochin Shipyard would be a natural beneficiary out of this. We like Cochin Shipyard at the current levels with a target of 695. The other company is Tata Elxsi. If we look at the numbers, numbers had come good. We have seen an expansion in margins of around 400 basis points, whereas profit grew also around 40%. Overall perspective, it's a leading player in terms of designs and for the automobile sector. 5 top OEMs have given a nod for this company in terms of driverless cars are concerned. Overall, we believe the platform is good. It is doing good in the digital platform space. Tata Elxsi in the mid-cap IT space looks very interesting from here on with a target of 1254.
Okay, Siddharth, stay on with us. I'm just going to go across to Soumit Sarkar, who's here to decode the Indigo numbers for us. And Soumit, the numbers definitely look good. I'm just looking at the press release. It says the EBITDA is up almost 37% on year-on-year basis.
Yes, it is. The numbers are not good. In fact, they are very strong. Now, their revenue, EBITDA, net profit, all are ahead of analyst estimates. Revenue has increased by 24% to 6,178 crore rupees, while EBITDA has increased by 34% to 1,936 crore rupees. EBITDA margin came in at 31.3% versus 29% in the corresponding quarter last year. Net profit, however, has risen by 56% to 762 crore rupees. Now, analysts were going with a number of close to 650 crore rupees, but the net profit has come in at 762 crore rupees. Now the revenue has increased for 7 consecutive quarter, while EBITDA and net profit has increased for the 3rd consecutive quarter despite the rise of fuel costs that we have seen. Now why such a strong number? Now it is a strong quarter on the back of strong passenger growth, plant load factor and rupee, and because of higher fares in the 3rd quarter. Now passenger growth was around 12%, rupee has appreciated by 4%, while fares are expected to rise by around 10% in the 3rd quarter financial year 2018. In fact, passenger load factor for Interglobe Aviation in the 3rd quarter was 88.5% versus 87% in the corresponding quarter last year. Now, these positives are partially offset by the rise in fuel cost. Now, average fuel cost in the 3rd quarter was around 56,450 rupees per kiloliter. That was higher by 13% compared to last year. Now, yields also rose by around 6% to 3.7 rupees. Now, yield means a measure which measures the average earnings of an airline company by which the company gets by transporting passengers and by luggage. However, and lastly, the fuel cost as a percentage of revenue also marginally increased to 32.6% versus 31% in the last quarter and versus 33.8% in the corresponding quarter last year.
Well, clearly, Swami, despite of higher fuel cost, which is up almost 21% on year-on-year basis, they put up an extremely good set of numbers. And the EPS for this, for EPS for the December quarter ended for Interglobe, they've stated in the press release, is almost 20 rupees. Siddharth, what is your take on the numbers?
It's been a very good number for Interglobe Aviation altogether. In fact, the entire aviation space have done quite well in 2017, and we can expect a good year for 2018 also, provided that crude doesn't go much higher from here. Of course, a little bit of the heat of higher crude oil prices has been felt, but I think that is negated with overall passenger growth and overall factors. But still, if I want to stay invested in this space for maybe 2-3 years, I would not take that much of a time for investments here. I think for 6 to 12 months is a good bet to get into the airline space. And in particular, if I want to pick up any preferred bets in this, I would like to go with SpiceJet because of operationally change of management, things are doing good. Operationally, company has been doing good. I think numbers will be delivered here also quite well in coming quarters. So SpiceJet would be our top bet in terms of aviation space is concerned.
Okay, Siddharth, our analyst Somit, who tracks this sector, has a question for you. Somit, go ahead.
Indigo has seen its revenue grow for the 7th consecutive quarter. Do you expect this trend to be maintained by Indigo, and what is the kind of growth rate that you're expecting from Indigo going forward?
Well, that all depends on how the crude oil prices will pan out, because maybe Q3 was having a lot of factors which negated the crude oil prices. But I think going forward, if passenger growth tepid somewhat and crude oil prices remains where it is, I think it will take a hit in terms of inventory. Although the entire space doesn't have much of an inventory issue, but still higher crude oil prices will impact their numbers. So how sustainable this would be for Interglobe would be difficult to say because we don't cover, but still I believe this space is quite volatile. So don't look at investments in this entire space with 2-3 year horizon. I think 6 to 12 months would be a better time frame to invest in these.
Okay, as you can see the visuals, the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley in a while will be briefing the media, and well, there is an expectation that there could be some announcement which could come in with regard to the recapitalization. Somi, thanks a lot for joining us. Siddharth, we'll leave it at that note. Appreciate you joining us today and taking us through your views in the markets.